It does. Oh, there we are. We are live. Hopefully the lovely Parkrun family will join us soon. So have you been working today?
Yes, finished at about 5 o'clock or something. Just a normal day today. We do depends when you're on call or if you're just doing the normal days, sort of 8:30 till 5:30, and then if you're on call, you're kind of like 8 till 9, depending on what shift you're doing. Then you might do nights as well, which would be 8 in the evening till like 9 in the morning. So yeah, just been a normal day today, which has been nice.
Yeah.
A bit more straightforward. Things are a lot easier now. Like in the hospitals, I think obviously things are getting better in general, and that's the general feeling. And in the hospitals, that's the same. It's not kind of overloaded with work like it was before, and not everyone, like when we first started in March, April, every single patient was kind of coronavirus and COVID, and now that's gone right down where we are anyway. Obviously, different areas of the country are experiencing different things, but I think London peaked so much earlier than everywhere else.
Yeah. You're feeling the benefit of that disappearing now. We can get into that. When we've got a few questions just about that. It'd be great to chat to you about that, because I think, like we were saying when we were chatting the other day, it's really hard if you're in an area where you've not really been, affected by it. And I think it's great to be able to speak to people who are, like you, on the front line. So
Definitely, yeah. Well, loads of people have said that to me. They've been like, it's been a really odd time, because obviously a lot of people have not known anyone who's been affected, and not had any kind of, not seen anything, and it's all just been kind of on the TV and in the news, and then it's hard to kind of make it real in your own mind, I think, for those people, because they haven't properly experienced it. Even when you do see it on the news and all that, but it's, it's the same with like, I don't know, like SARS or Ebola was like, for us in the UK, it didn't really hit home, I don't think, because it never came here. And so obviously people being asked to stay in and follow all these rules without kind of ever, having to experience it, which I guess is the point. I imagine it's been a very odd time.
I think it's shown how, people generally are great, aren't they? In that we've always said that about Parkrun, so it's great to know that people are, they want to do the right thing on the majority, which is brilliant. But it is odd. It's very odd when you've not been affected by it to see something so massively affecting so many people. It's just it is really difficult. But it is 6 o'clock, Kim. So let's get going, because we'll get loads of questions, and we can. So there's Kirsty. She's saying, welcome to everybody. So yes, get your questions down there if you've got any for Kim, and we'll put them to him afterwards. I'm Helen Williams, Parkrunner A6014, and I'm the event director of Harrogate Junior Parkrun here in the UK, alongside alongside Vassos Alexander. I'm the co-presenter of the Free Wheelie Time podcast. Before we start, I'd just like to recommend that after this conversation, people check out the many Parkrun social media channels in the UK and across the world, as well as subscribing to the various Parkrun podcasts out there. You'll find me on the Free Weekly Time podcast, but there's also with me now Parkrun Adventurers and the 9:30 Club, to name a few others. So without further ado, for today's question and answers, we are joined by Dr. and double Paralympian Kim Daybell. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining. I shall tell everybody a little bit about you before we get into the questions. Kim started playing table tennis at the age of 9 at home in the garage with his dad, and was immediately attracted by the speed and excitement of the sport. He made his international debut in 2008 at the age of 16 and progressed to win gold medals in Germany, Italy, Slovakia and Romania before finishing 4th at the European Championships in 2011, and then going on to represent Paralympics GB at London 2012 and Rio 2016. In 2018, we were talking about this, you completed your medical degree and won a silver at the Commonwealth Games. That must have been an incredibly busy year, and since then has been working as a junior doctor. In March 2020, Kim was due to start training full-time for Tokyo, but instead started working full-time on the front line of the NHS's battle against the coronavirus. Hello, Kim. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, how you doing? Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's really great to speak to you, and it's going to be really interesting to speak to you about, what it's been like to be right in the thick of it in table tennis and the Olympics, and also right in the thick of it, on the front line for the NHS. So interesting. So, like we say, for people who have got questions for Kim, put them in the comments at the bottom, and the lovely Kirsty will pull them out and we can ask him them at the end. So without further ado, you have an amazing bio there, Kim. It's absolutely full. So you've achieved an amazing amount of things and you're still only 27, which is unbelievable. Where has all of that drive come from?
I don't know. I mean, when you say it all out like that in a long list, it makes me feel, quite good actually. I've never really thought of it like that, and I think obviously I'm surrounded by all these incredible athletes and amazing people, and you're always kind of comparing yourselves to them, and you always feel like you could do more and you could be a little bit better, and I guess sometimes it's good to just sit back and take a look about what you have achieved. So it's quite nice to kind of hear that, and I don't know really. I mean, I was very lucky. I had really supportive parents and family around me the whole time, and kind of been training my whole life, and sport's been my whole life since I was sort of 9 or 10 years old, and I wouldn't have it any other way really. And I always just took it a year at a time. I mean, I've been playing sort of competitively internationally, since sort of 15, 16 years old. That's over 10 years now. It's a decade. And I just take it year by year. And I think every year I think I'm going to kind of stop, or I'm going to call it a day with sport and move on to something else. But every year it just sort of keeps pulling me back. And, my partner, my girlfriend's very supportive. I think she gets a bit frustrated with me sometimes. I'm always saying that I'm gonna stop playing after each major tournament, but then each time, as every athlete knows, even like the park runners know, every time you go, you want to do a little bit more whilst your body's telling you can. So I'm really pleased, really proud that I could be here, and obviously in a very strange position now after everything.
Absolutely, yeah. And you started playing table tennis with your dad when you were 9.
Yeah.
And you've just said that they were really influential. And has that really helped with all of your sporting and then also academic achievements, that backup? Have they been really important?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I put everything down to them really. They pushed me when I was a kid. Obviously having a disability when you're a child, I think it's quite easy for parents to sit back a little bit and just to say, you don't have to do this, or you don't have to do that. Don't just find your way and take it easy kind of thing. But they weren't like that. They pushed me to try and compete. And I played able-bodied badminton and table tennis and swimming and all this to a pretty high level in the able-bodied scene before I started doing the Paralympics. And I think I owe a lot of that to them, because I've never kind of grown up thinking that I couldn't do something. And that's been really amazing. I think it's a good message to kind of any parents of disabled children, just to kind of just keep pushing them. And it might take a while, to figure things out. I mean, even for me, like learning to tie my shoelaces was a challenge, and everything just takes a little bit longer. But if you just keep trying to figure out a way, and I train with guys who kind of have no hands, they've got missing legs, all this kind of thing, and what they've achieved is absolutely amazing. And it's kind of allowed me to then go on and study medicine, because I think when I was growing up, I was unsure whether I was going to be able to or not. I mean, I was born with no fingers on my right hand, and then I had a double toe transplant, so I had 2 toes off both feet were taken and attached to my right hand so I could grip things, and that's kind of allowed me to go on and to become a doctor, and just having that attitude of, you can do it, and there's a way around everything if you're willing to find a way. And I owe all that attitude to them, which has been great.
It seems like a running theme. So we spoke to Jesse Dalton. We did a Q&A with Jesse Dalton, who's a blind professional climber, and he just said his parents they just gave him a can-do attitude. And it seems like similarly everybody else thinks of you differently to the way you think of yourself, which is brilliant, because it just means you just get on with everything. I
think so, yeah. I mean, I think it is difficult growing up with a disability. It's not the easiest thing to do, and if you have that support, and that people constantly kind of backing you up and telling you that you can do it and you will be able to do it, then it makes a kind of a huge difference. I think now it's even better. I think now we live in a world where the Paralympics is obviously a much bigger event than it used to be. If you go back to sort of pre-Beijing kind of time, 2008, 2007, you wouldn't really know many of the Paralympians, and now actually a lot of them are sort of they're celebrities, a lot of them, and they're really well known. They've gone on to do some amazing things on TV and Strictly Come Dancing, all this kind of thing. They're involved with that now, and I think that's just a great advert for kids with disabilities anyway, that they can go out, and if they're willing to kind of work for it, and that's what they can achieve. And I think it's a great message. And working in the hospitals gives me that insight. I think if you have the child with a disability, if they can, be involved with sport, they can stay fit and they can stay healthy, they can stay out of hospital, they can kind of stay out of wheelchairs for much longer if they've got kind of degenerative disorders. It's a really important thing. And yeah, I know I was very grateful to my parents anyway.
At London 2012, you'd have only been 19.
Yes.
What was that like? Home Olympics, 19 years old.
I mean, like I said, again, I was playing with some of the guys who I was training with were like 16. So I didn't. At the time we played, we had for some reason in table tennis we had a really, really young squad. So when I played in that event, I didn't actually feel that young compared to some of the other people who were there. But it was a crazy experience actually. Looking back at it now, I kind of wish that I'd taken more in, because I think looking back at now, it was a bit shell shocked, to be honest. I mean, I started sort of playing Paralympics just after Beijing, and then it was a bit of a whirlwind right up to London 2012, and then suddenly I was there competing. I only was playing singles as well in that tournament, so my tournament was over within a few days actually of being at the Olympics, because I lost in the last 16 or something, and I did okay, it was fine. But looking back at it now, the whole thing was incredible, and I don't think I appreciated it at the time. But playing in front of a home crowd, I mean, that's not something that most athletes get to experience, having a home games. Probably most athletes who are playing now will never compete in a home games again, because obviously it rotates around the world. And very lucky, very honoured, and it was amazing experience.
You were also part of our #Team Park Run initiative, which was in 2018, where Olympians and Paralympians carried out the tail walker rule at events around the UK. That's where you met Kirsty. Yes. What role do you think elite athletes play in inspiring people to be more active?
I remember that day. That was great. We went around Finsbury Park. I remember walking around with the lady who was at the back, and that was great. She had a really incredible story. I think she was from the Netherlands. I can't remember. Maybe if she's watching, she can remember. But it was great. And I think as elite athletes now, you do have a obligation to go out there and to try and inspire generations. For us doing that kind of thing, we get asked to make sort of at least 5-6 appearances a year just for UK sport, to go out there and to promote public health, and to help people get fitter and try and inspire people to go on and kind of achieve things in sport. But it's not just about being a gold medalist or anything. It's about, even if it's just kind of getting off your sofa and going for a run, or just getting active again, because it's so important to us as a nation. I think obviously with the levels of obesity and everything going up and up every year, and I've got kind of a double insight into that being a medic as well. It's so important. I take that role seriously, as I think a lot of the athletes do, because if you can make it feel fun, I think it's hard to start exercising and it's hard to stay healthy in the world that we live in. I think people take it for granted. They just say, oh well, they should eat better or they should do more exercise. But people are busy, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not so easy to eat healthily. If we do our best, and hopefully we can try and keep people moving, and I think that's one of our obligations as elite athletes, because we've got that stage to go and do it. Yeah,
which is so great to be able to be with somebody like yourself at a park run and be able to walk. I think a lot of people, it's nice that the tail walker role was taken by Paralympians and Olympians, because I think that's what helps. You always think if you might be on the start line with Mo Farah, but to be able to be at the back and be able to walk and enjoy it, that really does give that motivational side of it, doesn't it?
Definitely. And like we said, it's not all about, for everyone, it's not about just necessarily winning and being the best, and being kind of achieving something really big. For some people might be just finishing 5k. If you're a disabled person, it might be just being able to go to the shops on your own, and it's all relative to everyone, which is why I like that sort of tail end thing, because it's a really nice kind of way to get people interested, and not just to have them kind of sprinting around at the front, because actually those people at the front don't need inspiring because they're already there, right? So it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Brilliant. So 2020 has been a different year so far for absolutely everybody watching. It's also meant that your Tokyo dream has been postponed, and nobody knows quite when that's going to happen. So we've obviously talked about you being in the front line of the NHS. What has it been like?
Big question. I mean, I think it's been a whirlwind. It's been a very odd kind of time and a very odd time to be a doctor, to be a nurse, to be any kind of healthcare specialist. I think exciting is the wrong word, but it's been, a time that you're proud to work for the NHS. We've stood up and we've helped the nation kind of get through this, and I was proud myself to be a part of that. What we saw on the news, and those kind of videos and everything with all the PPE and everything going on in intensive care, I think it's important that people out there know that that wasn't a dramatization. That is genuinely what it was like, and for sort of 5-6 weeks it was a war zone in the hospitals, and it was a scary place to be. I mean, I think going in there myself as kind of a young 27-year-old doctor, I didn't worry so much for my own health, because in general we found COVID-19 did affect the older population and people with other health problems, and I wasn't seeing anyone outside of work who was elderly or vulnerable. So for me, I wasn't worried necessarily so much about my own health, but we saw loads of nurses going in there who kind of were much older, or who had health problems, older consultants as well, who actually were making the majority of the decisions and spending the most time with the patients, because we were trying to limit the contact. And I thought what those guys did was amazing, because, they put themselves on the front line, and some of them lost their lives, unfortunately, in that kind of, in the pursuit of helping people. And I think, I fully respect that. It's an amazing thing to have done. We've never seen anything like it in the hospitals. I mean, obviously, where I was working, I remember at one point they had a big meeting because the oxygen pressures within the hospital, we couldn't keep them up because you needed to supply so much oxygen. And I mean, stuff like that, I mean, that's pretty scary, right? I mean, that was a scary moment. I remember doing the on-calls through the night and in the evenings, and you're seeing sort of rows and rows of people all with the masks needing the oxygen. And it's not pleasant. I mean, it's a difficult thing to go through when you're having kind of oxygen pumped in through a mask. That's not easy at all. I mean, that's tough. And I mean, I think we dealt with it as best we could, and things are now getting better. Fingers crossed that there's not another spike and we can kind of get back to normal. But yeah, it was really, really difficult, but lots of kind of inspirational stories. Lots of people did great things, and I think we have to try and take the positives and move forward.
Absolutely. And we're all very thankful that there are people like you on the front line who are helping. And, is it wrong for you to think about Tokyo and what might happen? How do you feel about that?
I think it's interesting. I think it's obviously it's all relative. I mean, I knew loads of athletes out there who had their dreams kind of taken away when Tokyo got delayed, and for a lot of people, at least it's on next year, and hopefully a lot of people will be there. But for some people, they may be older, coming to the end of their careers, and a year's too far away. They may have degenerative conditions if they're Paralympians. They might not be physically able to compete next year. There's lots of reasons why things might go wrong, and I think it was a difficult time because a lot of the athletes couldn't really speak out about it at the time, because obviously there were bigger things going on in the world and much bigger things than sport, definitely. So it was a really, really, really difficult time, I think. But it is all relative. I think we've seen from this period just how important sport and exercise is to our culture. People have really, really missed it, missing the big events like the Olympics and the European Cup and Wimbledon, everything that was meant to happen this summer.
Yeah.
It's something that kind of brings the world together, and it's great. And I think looking forward to Tokyo, I'm starting to do that a bit more now myself. Now things have settled down a bit, and I feel like my role can settle back into what it was before. I can think about getting back on the table. At the time, obviously, didn't think about any of that, because I think that would have been almost a bit selfish to be thinking about that at that time when I had other things to do. But we are thinking about it, and I've done a few interviews where we've talked about kind of Tokyo next year and what it could mean, and I think Tokyo 2021 has that potential to be a really amazing games. If it goes ahead, it could be a really amazing experience, because I think, it could be that kind of crowning moment where the world comes together again to compete and to be together and to do, to experience something good in a year that's actually been pretty rubbish. And it would kind of represent everything that COVID-19 doesn't, which is separation and isolation. And nations not coming together and all that kind of thing. And hopefully come next year, things will have settled around the world, and we'll be in a place where we can come together again. and compete against each other on that big sporting stage. But fingers crossed. Who knows?
We can start to look forward now, can't we? We can kind of move the goalpost again and think, let's look forward. It'd be great. But like, eventually when parkrun comes back, where everyone's very excited about the first one, and I think with the next Olympics, everybody's just going to be so excited because it's, when something's been postponed or like parkrun, it's been paused. It's wonderful to know that once it's back, we're kind of all back again, aren't we? We've got lots of questions here for you, so let's get into them. The viewers have been asking lots and lots of things, so prepare yourself.
Okay.
Poho Johnson, sorry Poho if I've pronounced your name wrong, says, as a doctor, where do you get your mental strength?
I think that's a good question. I think kind of day in, day out, you get your strength from your team around you and, the family that surrounds you at home, but also from the patients. I mean, when you go into hospitals, it's important to remember that you're dealing with people who are very afraid and they are possibly going through the hardest time of their life. But for me and for a lot of doctors, it's just another day, if that makes sense. And it can be quite easy to become a little bit flippant or just not as empathetic as you could be. We do debrief and we make sure we kind of catch ourselves when that's happening, because you're a part of something that's very difficult for someone. And you're doing that day in, day out. So it's not easy. But when you help someone and you see the difference that you make just by helping them and by being a conscientious doctor and caring for them, you can make a huge impact on their lives moving forward. When they then go home and how they recover and everything, if you can make that a good experience for them in hospital, it's going to have long-reaching implications. And you do hear these stories about people who go into hospital, have bad experiences, and then the whole thing just kind of unravels. And that's I do my best anyway to make sure I give people, the best experience they can have in a hospital as possible. It's not easy time. That's how I kind of keep going and day in, day out.
Charlotte Hewitt says, you mentioned inspirational stories in the NHS during COVID-19. Any you particularly remember? And did you get to clap any long-term COVID patients as they were discharged?
Yes, we did. We got to clap quite a few, actually, which was really, really nice. I think it kind of symbolised that beating of the virus, and it brought the staff together and the patients together in a difficult time. And we got to do that. We had a few staff members who actually ended up, in needing care and who eventually recovered, and they got clapped out, obviously, which was really lovely. I mean, individual stories, there are just so many. Like I couldn't pick one. And I think it's easy to talk about the doctors and kind of the consultants and all those big important people in intensive care who made those really difficult choices. And they, don't get me wrong, they were amazing, fantastic. But I remember going to work when sort of kind of COVID was at its peak, and you'd see the nurses. I just think they were incredible. I think they showed up day in, day out, didn't bat an eyelid. They spend all their time with the patients. I mean, as doctors, yes, we see the patients a lot, but we're not spending that close time with them. Taking them to the toilet, changing them, helping them, cleaning them, everything like that, which they did, and they did that day in, day out. And still they were supporting their own families. They might have had their own health problems, but that's just their job. And they did it without complaint. They did it without changing, and I thought that was just absolutely incredible. I think the nursing staff in general is the amazing story I think that came out of all of it. They were fantastic, really fantastic.
Dion Todd, says, how did you find your tail walking experience of parkrun compared to your other parkrun experiences as a runner?
Yeah, it's a completely different perspective. I think when I used to parkrun, when I was in Leeds, I studied in Leeds. I used to do the Hyde Park parkrun a lot, and I did the one not far from Harrogate as well. And I was all right. I think I was like 20-minute, something like that. Not bad. I wasn't never been an amazing runner, but at the front it's all kind of bustly, isn't it, and competitive, and everyone's trying to go for that best time. And actually it kind of made me see another side of the park run, which is just getting out, going for a walk, chatting, making friends, and I think that's also just as important. It's not just about the kind of the 60 minutes runners at the front. Yeah, it was really, really nice. I'd not done the Finsbury Park one before as well, so it was nice just to kind of get out and just have a chat with some normal people who just wanted to enjoy themselves, really.
Brilliant. Carl Green says, medical school is no mean feat. How did you cope juggling your studies with your sporting career?
With a lot of difficulty, a lot of early mornings and a lot of late nights was eventually how it worked out. I took some years out whilst I was studying to train full time. So pre-Rio, I took a year off. Pre-London, I took a year off. So it took me a bit longer to get through medical school than everyone else. I mean, I had a really supportive medical school as well, Leeds. They were fantastic. They kind of gave me some leeway just to get to tournaments and do all that. I mean, had to be very organised, but overall, I think I was just lucky to have a good team around me. And yeah, but otherwise, it was just a lot of hard work and dedication, I think. And just knowing how to manage your time, that was the other thing. You know, I'd wake up, I'd be up before lectures to like work out and then, or study even, and then study through the day. So then I'd have time to train in the evenings. And just managing it that way. I think there should be more kind of support for athletes who also want to study, because I think obviously in the elite world of sport that we live in now, it's so intense and it's kind of like you're all in or you're out. But I don't think it necessarily has to be that way. I'm pleased that I've been able to be an example of that. Because I think it's important for athletes to have other strings to their bow and be able to have an education and go out and do different things. Because when their career's over, They can't do anything more. So I've always tried to advocate for that. I think I tried to mentor when I was in my final year, mentored a few medical students coming through who kind of were thinking, oh, it's just too hard, can't do it. But just a day at a time, really. And just it's just forcing yourself to go to that session and every single time. Because if you miss one session, you're tired and you think, oh, I'm not going to go today, I'm too tired, then it adds up, you know. And if you keep missing sessions, then you're going to fall behind and then it's going to become a problem. I just forced myself every time just to go. And it was hard work. I think mixing it with actual work has been harder. But that's a different.
That's a different question completely. Dominic Summer says, love what you're saying about growing up with a disability and support being so important. Any standout moments of support you can remember in your career?
Let's have a think. So I think when I applied to med school, my school were really, really supportive, because I came across some quite when I was applying to med school, I had quite a few interviews, and there was a lot of kind of the interviewee, the panel, and some of the doctors, even some of the older doctors, especially, kind of saying, you know, are you sure you can do this? Basically, like, you've got a disability. Are you going to get 5 years down the line and find actually it's too much? You can't physically be a doctor effectively, which is tough. I think when you're an 18-year-old to hear that, that's not easy. It would make you think twice, having someone senior say that to you. But I had a friend whose dad he's a breast surgeon, and he was fantastic. You know, he just said, look, don't listen to any of those guys. Like, I've seen surgeons with like one hand, like you can go out there and you can do that 100%. And just hearing that from him kind of made me, more comfortable that I could go and do it. And it's just those little things really that help me through. I think Leeds, again, very, very supportive. When I first arrived there, they sat me down, and it wasn't like, oh, like, how are you going to manage, blah, blah. It was more like, you know, what we're going to do. Oh, you're obviously going to get through it. So, but how can we make it more easier for you? And I really appreciated kind of all of that. In a sporting sense, I've been very lucky. My coaches have always been fantastic. They've always kind of pushed me hard to achieve. And then when I got to kind of 16 and I was slipping a bit in the able-bodied team, I was kind of not quite making the national team anymore. Maybe looking back because of my disability, and actually it was starting to hinder my progression. And I used to play in the Sheffield local league, and one of the guys I played against was he had cerebral palsy, and he played previously for GB in Athens, I think. And he kind of just said, look, why don't you get involved with Paralympic sport? I think that'd be great. And that really helped me. Like, from there, I've kicked on and done everything that I've done in my career, and I have him to thank for that, because I kind of hadn't considered it really as an option. And he just said, look, let's get you involved. And then 4 years later, I was kind of walking out into London 2012, and I have him to thank for that. So I'll be very grateful. His name's Farrell. Very nice. Yeah, nice guy. But yeah, no, loads. I mean, I've been like I said, very lucky. And I think disabled children kind of around the country need that support. They need someone just to take them by the hand and just kind of say, look, it's going to be hard, but you can do it if you want to. And that's really important. And I hope that I can do that for someone at some point. Would be my goal.
Yeah. Stephen Taylor says you had a wonderful shout out on Twitter from your fellow Paralympian Will Bailey. What's the sense of community camaraderie like between Paralympian athletes, and are any of your fellow athletes doing amazing things in lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a great setup, I think, in table tennis. Not like that across all sports. I think what's good in the Paralympics, often you can have closer relationships because you're in different classes. So you're not competing directly against each other for a spot in the national team, because you're probably playing in a different class. And that actually allows, I think, your friendship and your relationship to be a bit better, because it's difficult when you're trying to compete against someone else, and it means everything, obviously. Yeah. For us, our performance manager brought in this culture of kind of family, and we look after each other like a family. And I've been on holiday with some of the team, and we see each other kind of outside the hall, and there's a really great relationship. Will's the top guy, actually. I mean, he's kind of probably our talisman player. He's been like on all over the TV and everything, and he's fantastic. And just seeing that was lovely. I haven't seen him obviously with lockdown, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He's an example of someone doing something great. He did everything with the masks. He used to be a patient at Great Ormond Street, so he developed his own sort of personalised mask, which sold sort of 15,000-20,000 things, and then he gave that money to charity. And there's loads of them, all of them out doing amazing things. Just even if it's just kind of to raise awareness or raising money for charity. Doing some of the wheelchair guys are doing kind of sponsored wheels like around their gardens, whatever, just trying to raise money. Because that's the kind of people they are. They're really inspirational people, and they want to, whilst they can't play, they want to do something to make a difference. And a big shout out to sort of 9 of the athletes who have actually just found out they've qualified for Tokyo off the back of the ranking list. So they're really happy, and I'm buzzing for them. So yeah, it's a really good setup and a really good team. Brilliant.
Tara Hayes asks, talked about inspiring people, who's the most inspiring person you've ever met? Anyone ever?
Oh, who's the most inspiring person I've ever met? That's a good question. I think for me, I'm just trying to think. The guy, I mean, I've obviously met some, really, really inspirational people kind of in my time. I think Will, I mean, it seems a bit silly. It seems very close to home to say it, but I mean, Will Bailey is something else. I mean, he's, well, for those of you who don't know him, he's a Paralympic table tennis player, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me singing his praises on here, but he overcame cancer when he was 10. He was, at Great Ormond Street, and he's got severe arthritis in all his limbs, and they kind of told him that he'd be in a wheelchair by the time he was sort of 15, 16. I mean, he's in the early 30s now, and he's kind of still running around. He then kind of went through I saw him progress through from starting table tennis to becoming a Paralympic, world, European, everything champion, to the point where he was then dancing on Strictly Come Dancing. Amazing. I mean, I think like his story is incredible when you actually think about what he's done, and what he's achieved, everything he went through as a child as well, and to come out the other end like he did is amazing, because you overcome. I mean, obviously, there are other athletes who have done other amazing things in the able-bodied world and would never take away from that. It's amazing. But when I watch him train day in, day out, and the pain he goes through, like with his ankle, he's got fused ankles. I mean, the pain he goes through every day just to train is incredible, and he still does it every single day. I'd go for him if I had to pick anyone.
Jared Dudley, last question before we've got a few viewer comments. Jared Dudley says, what's been the hardest thing about lockdown for you?
I think the hardest thing is just not being able to see my friends and family, just like everyone else. I mean, work was obviously a really difficult time going in every day, and what was hard at work was kind of, as the relatives weren't able to go into the hospitals, we as doctors, we acted as that bridge between relative and patient. So you're always ringing people, updating people, and helping them, holding the iPhone up to their relative's face so they can see them and they can talk. And you really become immersed in that. I think normally when the relatives can come in, you can step away from that a little bit and they can deal with the emotional fallout of what's going on. But that was really tough, actually, because you had to be a bit more involved than you maybe wanted to be emotionally. And that wasn't easy. And I think, especially if things weren't going well and people were getting sicker, but their relatives couldn't see it. So you were ringing them saying, look, this is happening and they're not getting better, or it's going this way, and had to have some really difficult conversations. Otherwise, I mean, going to work was a bit of a release still, because I think I don't know, I've been going to work normally, so I've been going out every single day, and my life hasn't changed as much as a lot of other people has, and I imagine that must have been really, really tough, not being able to kind of go out and being, especially for those 4 or 5 weeks when it was terrible. But yeah, just not seeing your friends and your family. I mean, that's what makes us human, is that interaction. And I was lucky enough, I lived with my girlfriend and one of my best mates, so I was lucky to still have that support around me. But if you'd have been on your own, I'm sure that was a really difficult time. And it's nice now, at least we can kind of see people in a safe way, whether it's outside or at the pub now, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, just not seeing people, definitely the hardest.
A few people have left some really nice comments that have come up, because you don't get to see them, obviously. Leanne Fisher says, your achievements are amazing. You should be really proud. Tom Braley says, super humbling hearing you speak about everything you've been a part of. Well done. And Kirsty from Part 1 says, nice to see you again, Kim. It was a pleasure tail walking with you back in August 2018, and thanks for joining us. So
that's all right.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Kim.
No problem. Been a pleasure.
And thanks to everyone who's tuned in. You can catch up with Kim on Twitter via @Kim Daybell. Do check out the many Part 1 social media channels too in the UK and across the world, as well as subscribing to the various Part 1 podcasts out there. Now, more than ever, it's important that we all come together and support each other. The Part 1 family is there for us all, and we will get through this together. Thanks a lot, Kim. Take care.
No worries. Take care, guys.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.